The sun was setting low, painting the sky with deep orange and purple hues, as I found myself on a long, winding road that seemed to stretch endlessly ahead. I was feeling a strange mix of excitement and unease. This was supposed to be a simple journey, just me and my partner, enjoying some time away from the chaos of everyday life. But little did I know, that trip would turn into something far more complicated and unforgettable, and it all began with the unexpected kindness of a black African old man who appeared when I least expected it. I remember the moment clearly. We had been driving for hours, laughter filling the car, stories bouncing back and forth between us, creating what felt like a perfect bubble of happiness. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, but beneath that surface, there was a tension I couldn't quite put my finger on. There was a secret lurking just beneath the smiles and casual jokes, something that was about to unravel in ways I never imagined. The old man came into our story almost like a guardian angel, a figure of calm and wisdom amidst the storm that was quietly brewing. He was sitting by the roadside, leaning against a tree with a serene expression that made me feel instantly at ease. Something about him was different, not just his age or his quiet presence, but the way his eyes held stories that stretched far beyond the moment we met. At first, I thought he was just a passerby, someone taking a break on his own journey. But soon, it became clear that his role in our story was much more significant. As we stopped to ask if he needed help, he smiled warmly and offered us advice that seemed almost too simple to be true. Yet, those words stayed with me long after we parted ways, echoing in my mind like a secret code waiting to be unlocked. That moment marked a turning point, not just in our trip, but in the way I started to see everything around me, including the people closest to me. What I didn't know then was how this old man's intervention would lead to revelations I was not prepared for, truths about trust, loyalty, and infidelity that would shake the foundation of what I thought was real. The journey we were enjoying together was about to change forever, and that peaceful roadside meeting was the calm before a storm I couldn't escape. There's something haunting about the way betrayal hides in the cracks of everyday moments. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. Instead, it creeps in quietly, disguised by the laughter, the shared memories, the simple joys of being together. And in that quiet, the old man's presence felt like a sign, a warning, maybe, or perhaps a chance to see clearly before everything came crashing down. I want you to imagine being in my shoes, miles from home, caught between the warmth of a stranger's kindness and the cold sting of doubt growing inside. How do you hold on to what you love when the ground beneath you feels like it's shifting? How do you trust your own heart when the people you care about might be keeping secrets? This story isn't just about one trip or one person's betrayal. It's about the complex, messy reality of relationships, the moments we think we understand but don't, the people we think we know but don't, and the choices that force us to confront uncomfortable truths. And right at the center of it all was that old man, a quiet witness to something I hadn't even fully realized was happening. As we drove away from that roadside, the sun disappearing behind the hills, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change in ways I wasn't ready for. That moment, that meeting with the old man, was the beginning of a story I needed to tell, not just for myself, but for anyone who's ever felt lost in the twists and turns of love and betrayal. So, if you've ever wondered what it feels like when trust is tested, when kindness comes from the most unexpected places, and when a journey that started with joy ends with questions you don't have answers for, then this story is for you. But be warned, the truth isn't always easy to face, and sometimes, the people we lean on might be the very ones we have to watch most carefully. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. The road ahead holds more surprises, and I promise you, the next part will reveal secrets that will leave you questioning everything. Who really helped me? Who betrayed me? And how does a chance encounter with a wise old man change everything? The answers are closer than you think, but only if you're ready to listen. After we left the old man by the roadside, the atmosphere in the car shifted. At first, it was subtle, just a quietness that settled between us like an unspoken question. My partner kept glancing over, as if searching for reassurance or maybe trying to understand what I was thinking. I, on the other hand, was wrestling with a strange feeling of unease I couldn't shake. The old man's calm presence had stirred something inside me, something that felt both comforting and unsettling at the same time. As the miles stretched on, I found myself replaying the brief conversation we had with him. He didn't say much, just a few simple words about trust, about looking beneath the surface, and about being careful who you let into your life. At the time, I thought maybe he was just an old man sharing his wisdom with two strangers. But now, those words felt heavier, like a warning disguised in kindness. The truth is, our relationship had already been on shaky ground for a while. We had shared some good moments, sure, but lately, things weren't as easy as they used to be. I sensed distance, little cracks that weren't big enough to see clearly but enough to feel in the silence that sometimes stretched too long between us. I wanted to believe everything was fine, that this trip was our chance to reconnect and leave the worries behind. But deep down, I feared that something was being hidden, something I didn't want to face. That evening, as we stopped at a small roadside diner to grab some food, the old man's words echoed louder in my mind. Sitting there, watching my partner laugh with the waiter, I couldn't help but wonder if the trust one had was real or just a fragile illusion. The more I looked, the more I caught little signs, slightly guarded glances, a phone screen quickly turned away when I walked into the room, messages left unanswered. It was as if the cracks were widening, but no one was willing to talk about it. I remember how the night sky looked when we finally pulled over to rest, stars scattered across the dark canvas, cold and distant. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about that old man. Who was he really? Why did he appear just when I needed him most? Was he just a stranger, or was there something more to his presence? The next day, things started to unravel even faster. We stopped at a small village to stretch our legs, and I noticed how my partner's phone kept buzzing quietly. I didn't want to pry, but curiosity got the better of me. When I glanced over, I saw a message flash quickly before it disappeared. It wasn't from me. That moment hit me harder than I expected. The feeling of betrayal that had been lurking in the background suddenly felt real and close. But instead of confronting it right away, I kept quiet, trying to hold on to the last threads of what I thought we had. Maybe I hoped it was just a misunderstanding, or maybe I wasn't ready to hear the truth. The old man's words kept playing in my head, especially the part about being careful who you let into your life. It felt like a puzzle I couldn't solve, a mystery I was trapped inside without a map. Was this journey really about getting away from problems, or was it a test, one that was about to reveal things I never wanted to see? As we drove on, the scenery changed from open fields to dense forests, and the road seemed to narrow, winding through shadows that mirrored the doubts growing inside me. I wanted to believe in the laughter we shared, in the memories we were making. But the silence between us was growing louder than any conversation. Then came the moment that changed everything, a phone call my partner took in the car, just before we stopped at a gas station. I tried not to listen, but the words were impossible to ignore. There was a tone of urgency, a voice I didn't recognize, and beneath it all, a tension that made my heart race. After the call ended, my partner's smile faltered for the first time all day. That night, as we sat around a small campfire, I looked at the flames dancing in the dark and wondered how much longer I could pretend everything was okay. The old man's presence felt like a distant memory now, but his advice echoed in every crack of the fire's glow. Trust is fragile, he had said. Sometimes, even the closest people can hide the deepest secrets. I knew that by morning, nothing would be the same. The journey we had started with so much hope was now a road filled with shadows, shadows I needed to face but was terrified to follow. The question was, how deep did the betrayal go? And was there still a chance to find the truth before it was too late? So here I am, sharing this story with you, not because I have all the answers, but because sometimes, the hardest part is admitting the pain and stepping into the unknown. The rest of this journey, the real story, is coming next. And trust me, it's not one you want to miss. The next morning, the weight in my chest felt heavier than ever. The sun rose quietly over the hills, casting a soft glow on everything but somehow failing to warm the cold knot of suspicion growing inside me. I watched my partner move around the campsite, pretending everything was normal, but I could see the hesitation in their eyes. It was like we were both walking on a thin line, trying not to fall but not sure how much longer we could keep our balance. I wanted to ask questions, to dig deeper and get to the bottom of what was really going on, but fear kept my lips sealed. Fear of what I might discover, fear of the confrontation, and fear of losing the person I thought I knew. Instead, I focused on the small things, the way their phone never left their side, the sudden quietness when I walked into the room, the vague excuses when I tried to talk about us. And then there was the old man. His face kept popping into my mind, as if he was a symbol of something bigger than just a kind stranger on the roadside. What if he saw more than I did? What if his words were a sign that the truth was already out there, waiting for me to open my eyes? That day, we drove through small villages and dusty roads, places where time seemed to stand still. The landscape was beautiful, but I barely noticed it. My mind was racing, spinning stories and doubts that made my heart ache. I started to think about trust, not just in my partner, but in myself. Had I ignored the signs? Was I so desperate to believe that I blinded myself to the truth? While I was lost in my thoughts, my partner seemed distracted too, their mood swinging between moments of warmth and sudden distance. It was confusing, painful, and it made me wonder if they were battling their own demons. Could there be reasons behind the silence? Secrets they were afraid to share? Or was it simply the beginning of the end? The hours passed slowly, and the tension between us grew like a silent storm ready to break. I caught myself looking at the phone screen again when it lit up with messages. This time, I couldn't help but notice the name, someone I had never heard of before. My heart pounded as I debated whether to ask or stay silent. But before I could say anything, the phone buzzed again, and this time, I saw a quick glance, a flicker of guilt or fear, that told me everything without words. That night, we stayed in a small guest house on the edge of a quiet town. I tried to eat, to act normal, but the questions swirling in my mind wouldn't let me. I found myself wandering outside under the stars, searching for answers in the cool night air. That's when I saw him again, the old man. He was sitting on a bench near the river, the same calm expression on his face. It felt like fate, like the universe was sending me a sign. I approached cautiously, unsure if I should trust him or if it was just my mind playing tricks. When I sat down beside him, he looked at me with eyes full of understanding. "You carry a heavy burden," he said softly. "How do you know?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Because I've seen it before," he replied. "Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, hidden beneath smiles and promises. But it always leaves a mark." His words hit me harder than anything else. I wanted to believe that things could still be fixed, but I didn't know how. The old man's presence felt like a bridge between the pain I was feeling and the hope I still wanted to hold on to. As we talked, I realized this wasn't just about one person's mistakes or secrets. It was about the fragile nature of trust, the invisible threads that hold us together, and how easily they can unravel. It was about the choices we make when faced with doubt, and the courage it takes to face the truth, no matter how painful. But even as I sat there, wrapped in the quiet night and the old man's wisdom, the biggest question remained: how deep did the betrayal go? And was there still a way to save what was left before it was too late? The journey wasn't over. If anything, it was just beginning. After that night by the river, something inside me shifted. The old man's words kept swirling in my mind, and I realized I couldn't keep pretending anymore, not to myself, not to my partner. But admitting the truth felt like stepping off a cliff, blindfolded, unsure if I would fall or fly. The tension between us was thick, almost suffocating, and every glance, every silence felt loaded with meaning. The next morning, we packed up in silence. The usual comfort of our shared space was gone, replaced by a nervous energy that neither of us wanted to face. I caught my partner stealing quick looks at their phone, fingers trembling just slightly. I wanted to reach out, to ask the questions burning inside me, but fear held me back. What if the truth was worse than my worst fears? As we drove, the landscape blurred outside the window, but inside the car, the weight of what wasn't said was heavier than any mountain. The road ahead twisted and turned, much like the tangled thoughts in my head. I kept thinking about trust, the fragile kind that once seemed unbreakable, now hanging by a thread. Then, suddenly, the phone buzzed again. This time, I saw the message clearly. It wasn't just secret conversations or hidden calls anymore. There was something more, something urgent and real. The air between us snapped. My partner's hand tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles white, and I felt my own heart pounding like a drum. I wanted to believe this was just a misunderstanding, something fixable, but every instinct screamed otherwise. The miles stretched on, but time felt like it stopped. I knew the moment was coming, the moment when everything would either shatter or somehow hold together. We pulled over at a quiet spot, the kind of place where nothing distracts you from the truth staring back in your eyes. I looked at my partner, searching for the person I thought I knew, the person I loved. But beneath the surface, there was a storm, one I wasn't sure we could survive. And then, the silence broke. The silence hung heavy between us, broken only by the faint hum of the engine cooling down. I finally gathered the courage to speak, my voice barely steady. What's really going on? Who are you talking to? My partner's eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite place, guilt? Fear? Or maybe something darker? Before they could answer, my phone buzzed. I glanced down, and my heart skipped a beat. It was a message from an unknown number. I hesitated, then opened it. The words hit me like a punch, "You don't know the whole story." Confused and shaken, I looked back at my partner, who seemed to shrink under my gaze. That's when everything started to unravel faster than I could keep up with. Out of nowhere, my partner pulled out a small, worn notebook from the glove compartment. "You need to see this," they said quietly. Inside were pages filled with names, dates, places, details that made no sense at first but quickly revealed a tangled web of secrets. Not just about infidelity, but something deeper, something involving lies that stretched far beyond our relationship. It wasn't just about betrayal anymore. There were people involved, hidden connections, and truths that someone didn't want me to uncover. The black African old man's words echoed louder in my mind now. This was bigger than a simple act of unfaithfulness, it was a story of trust broken on multiple levels. I felt the ground shift beneath me. The journey that started as a getaway to rebuild love was turning into a maze of deception and hidden motives. Every word, every glance from my partner took on a new meaning. The stakes were higher than ever, and the truth, whatever it was, felt just out of reach. I knew one thing for sure, by the time we reached the end of this road, nothing would ever be the same again. And the question was no longer if I could forgive, but if I could even trust at all. As I flipped through the worn notebook, the pieces started to fall into place, hidden meetings, secret messages, and a network of lies I never imagined. My partner looked at me, eyes filled with a mix of regret and desperation. "I wanted to tell you," they whispered, "but I was scared. It wasn't just about us." The truth spilled out like a flood, there was someone else involved, but not in the way I thought. It wasn't just a simple affair, it was tied to old debts, promises made under pressure, and a past neither of us could run from. The black African old man's advice now made sense. He wasn't just a stranger, he was a guardian of sorts, someone who saw the danger before I did. The kindness he showed wasn't random, it was a warning. And suddenly, I realized this journey wasn't just about infidelity, it was about survival, about trust tested in the harshest ways. For a moment, everything hung in the balance. Could I forgive the lies? Could I find a way back to the person I loved beneath the tangled secrets? I wanted to believe so badly. But just when I thought we might find a way through, my phone buzzed again. Another message from that unknown number. This time, it was a photo, one that made my blood run cold. It was a picture of the old man. But not the calm, wise figure I remembered. In the dim light, he was standing beside someone I never expected to see, someone from my past, someone I thought was gone forever. The real betrayal wasn't what I feared. It was something deeper, something that tied all of us together in ways I never could have imagined. The journey wasn't over. It had only just begun. The photo stayed on my screen, refusing to let me look away. The old man, the quiet figure who had seemed like a guardian, was connected to a past I thought I'd buried long ago. The person beside him was someone I had never wanted to see again, someone who had caused pain I thought was behind me. Suddenly, the journey I took to heal had brought me face to face with ghosts I couldn't escape. I looked at my partner, who now held my hand tightly, their eyes full of sorrow and hope. "We're in this together," they said softly, and for the first time, I believed it. This story wasn't just about betrayal or secrets, it was about the complicated threads that tie people together, the past, the mistakes, the chance for forgiveness, and the courage to move forward. We decided to face the truth, no matter how hard it was. The old man's warning had prepared me to see beyond the surface, to understand that sometimes kindness comes disguised as a challenge. The real test wasn't just about infidelity, it was about trust, about fighting for what matters even when everything feels broken. As we drove away from that quiet town, the road stretched out before us, uncertain but open. The journey wasn't easy, and maybe it never would be. But I learned that true strength comes from facing the hardest truths and choosing to keep going. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's that trust is fragile but powerful. And sometimes, help comes from the most unexpected places, changing everything in ways you never saw coming. 6.